Every now and then a piece of gear comes along that really surprises the heck out of me, and that's what happened to me about 2 weeks ago when Yongnuo sent me their 85mm lens for the RF mount. Alright guys, this is it, the Yongnuo, and I've been practicing that all afternoon, Yongnuo 85mm 1.8 RF lens. I've known about Yongnuo for a while now, and how I knew about them was through their really affordable but high quality LED panels, because I've owned a few of them over the years. And I've also seen that they've been making a progression into lenses. So they released like a 50mm 1.8 and a 35mm f2, I think, for the Canon EF system. But now it seems that they've turned their attention to the RF mount and they've started creating some lenses for us RF shooters. I did some digging and it turns out that they have already released this lens for the E mount. So it looks like this must be the adaptation of that same design for the RF. Just want to get some disclaimers out of the way. Yongnuo did send me this lens and they didn't make me pay for it, but they did want me to give my honest thoughts on the lens. I will be doing that, and they won't get to see this video before it goes live. So you guys already know how I do things on this channel. I don't really shoot charts or get into any nitty-gritty details. I'm not going to be telling you how many elements and how many groups and all that sort of stuff with this lens. It's more of a review on real-world use, and I have already taken this little Pocket Rocket 85 out on a bunch of shoots so far, so I'm really keen to share with you guys what I think of it. I have to say, my expectations weren't super high when I got the lens in my hands, and the fact that it's so small and lightweight made me really wonder, can it compete with the Canon 85 f2? When I first started out with photography, I remember buying some really cumbersome, some really big lenses and big cameras. I had a D800, 70-200 2.8, a massive 85 1.4. It wasn't too bad. My camera bag had wheels and I hardly ever traveled around. So fast forward about 5 years and I'm finding myself traveling so much more for my photography projects, and I'm getting more into travel photography. So that's now why my priorities have changed into favoring more lightweight equipment. So when I got this lens, one of the first things I noticed, it is small, it's light, and it definitely fits that category for me. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to jump straight into image quality here, because this is the thing that blew me away the most about this lens. First impressions, surprisingly super duper sharp wide open. I realized this as soon as I got it out of the box, slapped it onto my R6, started taking some test photos, just zooming in on the LCD screen, everything was so sharp and I was really surprised. Corner sharpness is really good as well, but as you might expect with these wide aperture prime lenses, you do lose a little bit of resolution moving into the corners. So talking about stopping down, the vignetting performance is not so bad wide open at 1.8, and as you stop it down, it does go away towards 2.8 and f4. And that last little checkbox when it comes to image quality out of a lens is chromatic aberration performance. If you've been shooting for a while, this is the kind of chromatic aberration that you're probably used to seeing out of f1.4, f1.8 and f2 lenses. But I gotta say, it performs better than a lot of lenses out there, even going into the $2,000, $3,000 range, and that is saying something. So with these optical characteristics, I think it makes this lens really attractive to people who shoot portraits, who like that blurry out of focus background and want to shoot wide open, because it does perform really well at those apertures. When I took this lens to the coast to shoot some beach stuff, I did forget the lens hood, and there was some times where I was shooting straight into the sun and I noticed a big rainbow flare across some of the videos and the images. But thankfully, they do include this lens hood in the box, so just make sure you don't forget this one if you are shooting into bright lights. My first time trying out this lens in a real world practical situation was actually at a wedding where I was shooting video, and here you can see me tapping on the screen on the R6 and transitioning from the background to the bride, and as you can see, it's super quick and super snappy. I have done a few tests since then, and as you can see, it is a pretty good performer when it comes to video autofocus. And when we're talking about photos, it's pretty hard for me to distinguish this lens from any other Canon RF lens that I've tried out in terms of accuracy and speed. But do take this with a grain of salt, as I've only had the lens for 2 weeks. Now, there was a situation at the beach where the sun had dipped, there was some beautiful color going on in the sky, and I really wanted to underexpose the scene in order to sort of retain that detail in the sky. So I did underexpose quite a lot. I did notice that the lens struggled a little bit to acquire focus in that situation. I was very underexposed, and I'll probably have to do a little bit more testing just to confirm that. Now, you might have noticed already in the B-roll shots, let me just give you guys a look at this, that we do have a multi-purpose ring on the front here and does have a little dial. So as you can see, you can set it to focus. So that's just normal manual focus. And then you can set it to be a control ring. That means you'll be able to assign certain functions of the camera like shutter speed, ISO, aperture to this ring and be able to make changes on the fly. But interestingly, this lens also has a setting where you can make this control ring have a click to it. So now, as you can probably hear, we have some tactile feedback when you're using this lens. Being able to know that every single click is a third stop, especially when you're changing settings, is a really nice feature to have. And of course, as per usual, we have our autofocus and manual focus switch as well on the lens. Another really cool thing is that it actually has a USB port built into the lens on the base here, and this will allow for firmware updates in the future, which is really cool. When new RF bodies come out, this lens should not lose its compatibility, so that's really nice to know as well. You're probably thinking by now, this is a pretty sweet lens. Mitch, how many Earth credits do I need to part with in order to get my hands on one of these? This is going to cost, I think, around $350 US. And I say I think because I haven't been able to find this lens listed anywhere in sort of a US dollar price. The only place that I've seen it listed is on the Yongnuo website, where the currency conversion works out to be around that amount in US dollars. So this means that we're getting optically a really great performing lens in a super compact and lightweight form factor for a fraction of the price of what's already out there on the market. So for that reason, this is one of the most exciting lenses I've come across so far this year. And you're probably wondering, will I be keeping this lens and adding it to my bag? The answer is definitely yes. I think it makes an amazing complement to the 35 1.8 that I have, given that these are both lightweight and compact. If I really need to go somewhere where weight is an issue, then these two lenses are gonna make the perfect combination. You guys might remember my review on the Canon RF 85 f2 macro and how that lens just wasn't for me because it did get stuck in autofocus in video mode and it really just slowed me down. This lens is not macro, so it doesn't have that issue. And I love the fact that if I want to shoot stabilized video on this lens, I can quickly chuck it on my gimbal because it doesn't disrupt the weight distribution too much. Stick around on the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below if you haven't already, because I will be testing this lens out a bunch more. I'll be chucking it on the RP and seeing how it performs on this camera body as well. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.